I figured out a way to produce 500 plus strategic on-brand high-quality ads every single month. Not by hiring a massive team that burns through payroll or by using generic AI that sounds like a robot and destroys your brand, but by installing this hybrid AI creative system into your brand. And it's called hybrid for a reason, because AI isn't at the point where you can 100% rely on it fully, but completely ignoring it, that's like leaving millions on the table. So I developed a system that takes the strategic brain of human creative strategists and combines it with the execution power of AI that can pump out volume at a scale no human team could ever touch. 500 plus strategic on-brand high-quality ads every single month. That's the ultimate human plus AI creative system. And I'm about to show you exactly how it works and why 500 ads per month is the bare minimum now, because something massive changed in the last few months. And if you don't adapt to it, your ads will fatigue so fast you can't keep up. You stay stuck at the same revenue while CPAs keep climbing, and the brand you spent years building can't scale anymore. That's exactly why this hybrid AI creative system exists, so you can avoid all of this. Now, you don't need a tech team to set this up, you don't need expensive software subscriptions, and you don't need to spend weeks learning complicated automations. All you need is 3 key components working together. And when they're in place, you can test 10x the volume your competition is testing right now. You can find 3 to 5 new winners consistently every single month and scale to multi-8 figures annual revenue without hitting a creative ceiling. So if you're spending over 100K a month on meta ads right now, then you seriously can't afford to miss this. Let's get into it. Alright, so in order to understand how this hybrid AI creative system actually works and how it can 10x your creative output, you need to understand why it even exists in the first place. My name is Felix, and I've been working with all kinds of D2C brands for years now. From brands I helped to go from 30K a month in ad spend to becoming one of the top 30 fastest growing eCom companies in the Netherlands. Or skincare brands that went from 0 to 400K a month in ad spend within just 4 months. And also brands doing 60 million in revenue, spending over 2 million a month on meta ad. And across all those brands and the many more I worked with, I kept seeing the same exact problems. So let me give you an example. I was working with a health brand doing 30K days, not months or weeks, 30K days, which sounds great, right? Except it wasn't, because I, the creative strategist, was drowning in operational chaos. I'd spend hours every day manually formatting concepts in a specific style for the editors, then uploading all the concept details to Google Sheet and giving 4, sometimes 5 rounds of feedback per single concept for the editors and designers. And then back to Slack, coordinating revisions and daily meetings to keep everything on track. My actual strategy time, so creating angles, analyzing performance, deciding what to test next, maybe 20-30% of my week, which meant I was producing maybe 10 concepts a week. And the media buyers, they were just waiting, sitting there with a budget to spend, but nothing new to launch. So here's the fundamental shift that happened over the last few months. 40 concepts per month used to be plenty. A year ago, you could find one ad, scale it for 3 to 6 months, and print with it. But something fundamental changed over the last few months. Something that flooded Meta with more creatives than ever before. Something that made your winning ads die within weeks now if you're lucky, instead of months. Because creating ads has become easier than ever. 5 years ago, you needed a production crew, cameras, professional actors, locations, and expensive editing software. Now, AI tools generate realistic testimonials, iPhone footage outperforms 10K productions, and Apple Note screenshots crush polished creatives. So the barrier to entry dropped basically to 0, which sounds great, right? Except it created a massive problem. Because if it's easier than ever for you to create ads, it's easier than ever for everyone else too. Which means more brands are flooding Meta with more creative than ever before. And that triggered something most brands completely missed. Meta rolled out Andromeda, their new AI-powered algorithm that fundamentally changed how ads get delivered. Here's how it works. When someone opens Instagram or Facebook, there are a million different ads they could get shown. And Andromeda's job now is to scan through that massive pool and select a few thousand ads that the user is most likely to engage with and convert on. And here's the critical part most people miss. Andromeda prioritizes something called creative diversity. And this is straight from Meta's own documentation. Just look what it says here. Creative diversification refers to the practice of creating a wide range of ad creatives with different themes, messages, and visuals to cater diverse audience segments. And look at the only testimonial Meta published on their article. Since introducing creative diversification, this brand went from 3 to 4 creatives per week to 50. That's over a 10x to their creative volume. And keep in mind, not to scale, but just to maintain their performance. And according to Meta, that's what drove their performance. That's the new standard Meta is publishing on their own website. So if you're running 100 different hooks on the same body and CTA, Andromeda sees that now as the same ad. So your ads get put into a tiny pool that they exhaust fast. And that's why your ads die now within 3 weeks instead of 6 months. And if you don't adapt to this, then your ads are going to fatigue so fast you won't be able to keep up. Just look at what's happening to CPMs right now. They're climbing month after month because everyone is flooding Meta with more creative, competing for the same attention. And while you're watching your profitable campaigns die and scrambling to figure out what to test next, your competitors who figured this out are feeding Andromeda exactly what it wants. 50 different ads with different angles, formats, visuals, and copy. And that's the new baseline. But there comes a nasty problem with it, because most brands can't produce that volume. The traditional creative process maxes out at 40, maybe 50 concepts a month. So brands think they only have 2 options. Option 1, hire more people. You bring on 2 more creative strategists thinking you'll triple your output. But all you get is coordination chaos, more Slack threads, duplicate work, meetings about who's testing what, and in the end, maybe 1.5 times more concepts instead of 3, with way more operational headaches. Or option 2, they use AI with 0 context. Just prompt it like this, and no brand voice, no customer psychology, no strategy, and you get generic garbage that tanks your brand. So that's why I built the third option, the hybrid AI creative system. And let me show you exactly how it works. And I'm going to break this down into 3 core components. Component 1, the AI infrastructure. This is where you train a custom AI specifically on your brand. Your voice, your customer language, your winning angles, your product positioning, everything. So instead of getting generic ChatGPT outputs, you're getting concepts that actually sound like your brand and understand your psychology. Now, component 2, the strategy framework. This is where a human creative strategist uses the strategic coverage framework to map out thousands of concepts, decides which one to test, and polishes the ads before they go live. This is what keeps everything strategic, instead of just being high volume garbage. And the third component, the automation layer. This is what handles all the operational work. The formatting, the delivery, the tracking, all the stuff that wastes 80% of a strategist's time. So they can focus on the actual strategy instead of administrative bullshit. So when you combine these 3 components together, that's when one hybrid creative strategist can produce over 500 plus strategic on-brand concepts every single month. So let me walk you through each component and show you exactly how it works. So let's start with the AI infrastructure. Most brands give AI like 2 or 3 lines of context and wonder why they get shitty output. Now, here's how it actually works. The AI infrastructure has 2 specific steps, and you can't skip either of them, because the quality of what comes out is entirely dependent on what you put in. So let me walk you through step 1, the initial research process. This is where you need to understand your customer at a depth that most brands never reach. Let me just show you my market research process that consistently generates 80-page plus in-depth avatar documents. Not some surface level 35-year-old busy mom garbage, but deep psychological profiles. The exact language patterns, pain points, desires, objections, buying psychology, and same thing for brand and offer positioning as well. This becomes the foundation on which everything else is built on. The avatar doc is just the beginning, because step 2 is where it goes from basic AI tool to holy shit, this actually thinks like an expert. This is where you build what I call the 250-page instruction prompt. And this is where Claude projects come in. Because Claude projects lets you upload context documents as project knowledge that you can reference when you're prompting. So here's how this works. First, you upload that 80-page avatar doc from step 1 as the project knowledge. And same thing with your brand and offer positioning docs, which lets you build the actual 250-page instruction prompt. This includes an overview of your avatar, your offer, your past winning ads and why they worked, the best copywriting practices, marketing material like books or video transcripts, psychological triggers specific to your audience, strategic angle mapping, and all structured in a very specific way. So the AI knows exactly how to think about creative strategy, what to prioritize, how to structure concepts, how to maintain your brand voice while hitting different psychological angles. And when you prompt it with this 250-page instruction setup, plus all the project knowledge documents, it pulls from everything. This is what transforms it from a generic AI tool into what I call a trained creative brain. Now, let me show you this actually working in action. This ad right here, this actually ran using this exact system.
There's a biological reason why your facial hair gets worse with age, and it has nothing to do with genetics. You've been damaging your follicles for years without even knowing it.
And you can tell it's not some generic ChatGPT garbage. Now, here's the part that most people miss. Because this AI infrastructure, it's incredibly powerful. But it doesn't replace human creative strategy. The AI executes, but it doesn't decide which angles to test. And it doesn't make strategic pivots based on what's working and what's not. And that's exactly what component 2 is, the strategy framework. So now that you understand how the AI infrastructure works, let me show you how the strategy layer makes sure all that volume is actually strategic. Because volume without strategy is just spam. You can produce 10,000 concepts, but if they're all random angles with no systematic coverage, then you're just throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. And remember what we talked about earlier with Andromeda? The algorithm doesn't want 10,000 variations of the same ad. It wants 15 to 20 completely different concepts, different angles, different psychological triggers, different formats, so it can target different segments through the creative itself, which means you need strategic diversity. And that's exactly what component 2 is about, the strategy framework. Let me show you exactly what I mean by this. This is what I call the strategic coverage framework. And once you see how it works, you'll understand why some brands are finding 3 to 5 winners every single month, while others are lucky to find maybe one. Now, here's how it breaks down. You start with 3 core audiences. These are different customer segments with different pain points, different desires, different buying psychology. For example, if you're selling a sleep supplement, audience 1 might be exhausted parents. Audience 2 might be high-stress professionals. And audience 3 might be people with chronic sleep issues. Each of these audiences needs completely different messaging because they're coming at the problem from completely different angles. Then, for each audience, you map out 5 big ideas. These are the core psychological themes that drive purchase decisions for that specific audience. So for exhausted parents, the big ideas might be finally getting uninterrupted sleep so you can be present with your kids, then maybe breaking the cycle of caffeine dependence just to function, reclaiming energy without feeling like a zombie, and so on. Each big idea taps into a different emotional driver. Then for each big idea, you create 5 angles. These are different ways to present the psychological theme. So let's say the big idea is finally getting uninterrupted sleep. The 5 angles might be pain focused, so what 4 hours of broken sleep is doing with your health, maybe desire focused, imagine waking up actually refreshed. Or you can take an angle from social proof. 12,000 parents are finally sleeping through the night. The 4th one might be authority based. Sleep scientists reveal the reason you can't stay asleep. And maybe a mechanism reveal. The hidden sleep disruptor your doctor never mentioned. All of those come from the same big idea, but 5 completely different entry points into the customer's psychology. And then, for each angle, you test 5 formats. So those could be UGC, statics, founder, street interview, a demo, podcast interviews, and so on. You have the same message, but completely different creative execution. Because some people respond to seeing real customers, others respond to founder stories, and others just want to see the product. Then for each format, you test 3 different hooks. So different opening lines that grab attention in different ways. And then 3 scroll stoppers per format. So different visual pattern interrupts that make people stop mid-scroll. So when you do the math, you get 9 ads per format, which equals 45 ads per angle. Now take 5 angles and you have over 200 ads per big idea. And since we have 5 different big ideas, we had over 1,000 ads for just one audience. And with the other 2 audiences, you got enough fresh ad concepts to test for over 6 months if you're testing 500 new ads every single month. And that's before iterations. So remember, Andromeda wants creative diversity. When you're systematically testing across different audiences, big ideas, angles, and formats, you're giving the algorithm exactly what it wants. And when one ad works, you know exactly why it worked. Which audience, which big idea, which psychological trigger resonated. So now you can replicate that one winning pattern across other formats, other hooks, other audiences. And that's how you can find 3 to 5 winning ads every single month. And your competition, testing 40 random concepts per month, they're hoping to get lucky once. Now, here's how you actually execute on this. Because having 3,375 concepts is great, but you can't test all of them at once. So the creative strategist's job is to prioritize which concepts to test first, and you start with the highest conviction idea and angle, based on past performance, customer research, and market knowledge. Then you test those across multiple formats and see which ones perform. And once you identify winning patterns, you just expand. You take that one winning angle and test it across other formats. You take that winning psychological trigger and test it with other audiences. Or you iterate on the hook. You test different scroll stoppers, and because everything is mapped in the framework, you know exactly which variations to test next. That's how you go from finding one winner to finding 3 to 5 winners every single month. Now, building this framework requires a trained creative strategist who understands customer psychology at a deep level. Because AI can tell you, this ad got a 3% CTR, but a strategist can tell you which trigger landed, which segment resonated, and what that means for your next 50 tests. So now, let me show you component 3, the automation layer. The automation layer that ties it all together. Because without automation, you're still drowning in operational work. Because someone's got to format all the concepts, someone has to organize them and deliver them to your editors, someone's got to track the performance data across hundreds of ads, and someone has to gather the research and monitor what's working in the market. And if all of that falls on your creative strategist, they're gonna be drowning in operational work again. So now there are 4 key automation systems here. And let me show you what each one does. So first is the delivery automation. Your creative strategist gets the concept from Claude, reviews it, and polish it so it's ready to get edited. And once it's ready to test, they just copy the link, paste it in this Notion workspace, and change the status to format it. This triggers an automation that checks all the formatting to make sure everything's structured correctly for production. If something's off, like a hook is missing or whatever, it just flags it in Slack so they can fix it instantly. But if everything's correct, it automatically puts it on the creative tracker with all the concept details like angle, format, concept description. So your editors open just the tracker and see exactly what they need to produce and can get straight to work. That handles delivery. Now let's talk about market intelligence. Second is what I call the spy tool. This automatically monitors competitor ads and winning patterns in your niche. It is constantly scanning what's working in the market right now, and it feeds all of that intelligence back into your creative strategy. So when your strategist is deciding which angles to test next, they are not just guessing. They're looking at real-time data about what's working in the market, which competitors are scaling, which ads are getting the most engagement. All automated and organized, ready to inform strategic decisions. Now that's market intelligence. Let's talk about customer research. This is the research gatherer. This automatically collects testimonials, reviews, and customer language on an ongoing basis. It's constantly pulling voice of customer data from your product reviews, support tickets, social media comments, maybe even survey responses. Just anywhere your customers are talking about their problem and your product. And it organizes all of that by theme. So when your strategist is building new angles or updating the avatar document, they have fresh customer language to pull from. Real-time insights about what your customers are saying right now. And fourth is the performance analyzer. This is what gives your strategists everything they need to make strategic decisions. It automatically pulls all your ad performance data from Meta. And here's the key part. It organizes that data by your strategic coverage framework. So instead of looking at a random list of 500 ads and trying to figure out what's working. So your strategist sees performance organized by which audience segment is responding, which big ideas are resonating, which angles are converting, which formats are performing, and so on. They can see it at a glance. Audience 2 is responding really well to Big Idea 3 in UGC format. And because everything is mapped out in the framework, they know exactly what to test next. This is what transforms raw data into actionable intelligence. So the creative strategist can make decisions like, this angle is working, let's test it across other formats. This audience segment isn't responding, maybe try a different big idea. Or this format is crushing it, let's prioritize more concepts in this format. When you have all 4 of these automations in system, your strategist has everything they need to focus on the actual strategy. They're not formatting concepts, that's automated. They're not hunting down competitor insights, that's automated. They're not manually gathering customer research, that's automated. And they're not spending hours organizing performance data because, guess what? It's automated. Instead, they're looking at clean, organized intelligence and making strategic calls to find your next winning ad. And because all the operational work is automated, 500 plus concepts per month actually gets executed, not stuck in coordination hell, Slack threads, or waiting on manual formatting. So, with all 3 components working together, here's how you find 3 to 5 winners every single month. Now, let me actually show you the math. Let's assume a terrible hit rate. 1% of your concepts become winners. If you're producing 40 concepts a month, with a 1% hit rate, that's 0.4 winners per month. Not even one winner. But if you're producing 500 concepts, with the same 1% hit rate, that's 5 winners per month. And in reality, the brands I've worked with have hit rates above 5% and sometimes even close to 10. So I guess you can imagine what that would look like. And that compounding advantage, that's what separates the brands from dominating their niches, from the ones that are wondering why their performance keeps dropping. So now you have everything you need to implement this. You have the AI infrastructure that executes strategic volume at massive scale. You have the strategic coverage framework that ensures every single concept is mapped to a specific psychological trigger, customer segment, and format. And lastly, you have the automation layer that eliminates all the operational drag so your strategist focuses on the actual strategy, which means one creative strategist can produce 500 plus ads every single month. You can test 10x more volume than your competitors and consistently find 3 to 5 new winners every single month, instead of hoping to just get lucky. Now, that's it. That's how you scale to multi-8 figures annual revenue without hitting a creative ceiling. Now, if you want me to install this entire hybrid AI creative system into your brand, the AI infrastructure, the strategic coverage framework, the automation layer, all of it. Plus, get access to one of my human-trained creative strategists who will run this entire system for you. So you can start producing 500 plus ads per month without having to worry about keeping all the workflows running up to date, spending weeks onboarding and training someone on your processes, and dealing with any of the technical setup yourself, then here's what you need to understand. Look, this is only for brands that are actually ready for it. If you're spending at least 100K per month on meta ads and you've got a solid product that actually helps people and you're serious about scaling, then just DM me the word system on Instagram and I'll send you the details on how we can work together. Thanks for watching and talk soon.